All right, well, I got about 15 minutes or so to hang out, so I figure I'd do a second installment on this motherfucking Machiavelli joint. All right, so we're gonna start off where we left off, where fucking Cosimo and motherfucking Fabrizio's having a conversation. And Fabrizio's an old general who's fucking sitting here breaking some shit down to a young man who's asking questions of him. And we're midway through fucking Fabrizio's statement, basically about how military should be fucking done inside of a government. And we're going to continue on. Right. So he says, do you not have within memory of events of your time many soldiers in Italy finding themselves without employment because of the termination of wars, gathered themselves into very troublesome gangs, calling themselves companies, and went about levying tribute on the towns and sacking the country without there being any remedy able to be applied? Have you not read how the Carthaginian soldiers, when the first war they engaged in with the Romans under Mattus and Spendius was ended tumultuously, chose two leaders and waged a more dangerous war against the Carthaginians in which they had just concluded with the Romans? And in the time of our fathers, Francesco Sforza, in order to be able to live honorably and comfortable in times of peace, not only deceived the Milanese, and whose pay he was, but took away their liberty and became their prince. All the other soldiers of Italy who have employed the military as their particular profession have been like this man. And if through their malignity have not become dukes of Milan, or so much more do they merit to be censured. For without such a return, if their lives were to be examined, they would all have the same cares. Forza, father of Francesco, constrained the queen Figiana to throw herself into the arms of the king of Aragon, having abandoned her suddenly and left her disarmed amid her enemies, only in order to satisfy his ambition of either levying tribute or taking the kingdom Braccio with the same industry. Sought to occupy the king of Naples and would have succeeded had he not routed and killed at Aquila. Such evils do not result from anything else other than the existence of men who employ the practice of soldiering as their own profession. Do you not have a proverb which strengthens my argument, which says war makes robbers and peace hangs them? For those who do not know how to live by another practice, and not finding anyone who will support them in that, and not having so much virtue that they know how to come and live together honorably, are forced by necessity to roam the streets, and justice is forced to extinguish them. So basically, he's breaking down how if you have professional soldiers, right, and all of a sudden they no longer have a war to fight, you'll end up with, professional robbers on your fucking hands. Mercenaries, individuals who will fucking sit here and, be like it was, to be honest with you, back in the 1920s and 30s, individuals who came back from fucking, World War I in particular. During Prohibition, the most dangerous of the people during Prohibition were the fucking soldiers, all right? And who was it? Public Enemy's John Dillinger. He was in the military. You know what I'm saying? Like, all these guys were in the fucking military. Babyface Nelson, all these individuals. They served in the military, came the fuck home, and went to war with the fucking people. Went to war with the police. They were accustomed to using weapons and shit. They became bank robbers. Because they didn't have any fucking skill but being a military member. And they were drafted at fucking 16, 17, 18 fucking years old. And they were out there fighting in trenches. They came home. There was no work. There was nothing for them to do. And they banned fucking alcohol. And it left a giant market where they could be very, very successful as robbers, as fucking, bootleggers and shit of this nature. You know what I mean? So this is basically where this breaks down. He said, you have made me turn this profession, art, and soldiering back almost to nothing. And I had supposed it to be the most excellent and most honorable way of any. So that if you had not clarified this better, I will not be satisfied. For if it is as you say, I do not know whence arises the glory of Caesar, Pompey, Scipio, Marcellus, and of so many Roman captains who were celebrated for their fame as the gods. Fabrizio, I have not yet finished discussing all I have proposed, which included two things. The one, that a good man was not able to undertake this practice because of his profession. The other, a well-established republic or kingdom would never permit its subjects or citizens to employ it for their profession. Concerning the first, I have spoken as much as it occurred to me. It remains for me to talk of the second, where I shall reply this last question of yours. I say that Pompey and Caesar, almost all those captains who in Rome after the first Carthaginian War acquired fame as valiant men, not as good men, but those who had lived before them acquired glory as valiant and good men, which results from the fact that these latter did not take up the practice of war as their profession, and those whom I name first as those who employed it as a profession. And while the Republic lived immaculately, no great citizen ever presumed by means of such a practice to enrich himself during periods of peace by breaking laws, despoiling the provinces, usurping and tyrannizing the country, and imposing himself in every way, nor did any one of the lowest fortune think of violating the sacred argument, adhere himself to any private individual, not fearing the Senate, or to perform any disgraceful act of tyranny in order to live at all times by the profession of war. So that was a big fucking sentence, right? Caesar was a fucking soldier, and that's all the fuck he really was. You know what I'm saying? Like, he wasn't much in the way of governing. He didn't really bring Rome to prominence through governorship. He didn't, stand here and build aqueducts and all this shit. He stood there and expanded the nation through killing people. That's all he fucking did. That's what he's saying by that. Right. All right. So, and if you ever have a chance, watch Dan Carlin on this. Like, he has a really good way of putting it. And he'll fucking open your eyes. But those who were captive, being content with the triumph, return with a desire for the private life. And those who were members of the army returned with a desire to lay down the arms they had taken up. And everyone returned to the art, trade, or profession by which they ordinarily lived. Nor was there ever anyone who hoped to provide for himself by plunder and by means of these arts, a clear and evident example of this. As it applies, the great citizens can be found in the region of Attila, when he was captain of the Roman armies in Africa, and having almost defeated the Carthaginians, asked the Senate for permission to return to his house to look after his farms, for which he was being spoiled by his labors. Whence it was clear than the sun that if the man had been practiced war as a profession, and by means of it thought to obtain some advantage for himself, having so many provinces which he could plunder, he would not have asked permission to return to take care of his fields, as each day he could have obtained more than the value of all of his possession. But as these good men who do not practice war as a profession do not expect to gain anything from it, except hard work, danger, and glory, as soon as they are sufficiently glorious, desire to return to their homes and live in practice of their own profession. Now, we bring into the word glory here, right? Which is important. All right, because the idea that the soldiers didn't go out here for the pay. They didn't go out here for the fucking money. They went out here to gain fame and notoriety as a soldier. And as soon as they did so, because it brought honor upon their family, and it allowed them the ability to practice politics later in life, oftentimes, is what it would do. So you would come back as a war hero, and you would be much respected among your community. And in doing so, it would allow you to better your business and to better yourself later in life, and not have to worry about as much shit as you did before. It's kind of, how do I put this? It's kind of like, it's like having a veteran status. You know what I'm saying? But at the same point, it doesn't really come with a pension, but it comes with a reverence where people give you free fucking haircuts and look after you when you're old. You know what I mean? They go, oh, he was a great soldier once. You know what I mean? And they'll look after your kids and shit of this nature and help you out. You know what I mean? If you, end up having ailments or, maladies or whatever, you'll have problems, later in life, with knees and wounds and whatever the case might be. So anyway, as to men of lower status and gregarious soldiers, also true that everyone who voluntarily withdrew from such a practice, for when he was not fighted with a desire to fight, but when he was fighted, wanted to be dismissed, which illustrates the many ways, and especially in seeing that it was among the first privileges that the Roman people gave to its citizens, that he should not be constrained unwillingly to fight. Rome, therefore, while she was well organized, which was up to the time of the Gracchi, did not have one soldier who had to take up this practice as a profession, and therefore had few bad ones, and these were severely punished. A well-ordered city, therefore, ought to desire that this training for war ought to be employed in time of peace as an exercise, and in time of war as a necessity, and for glory, and allow the public only to use it as a profession, as Rome did, and any citizenry who has aims in using such exercises is not good, and in any city which governs itself otherwise is not well ordered. Cosmo, I am very much content and satisfied with what you have said up to now, and this conclusion which you have made pleases me greatly, and I believe it will be true when expected from a republic. But as the kings, I do not yet know why I should believe that a king would not want particularly to have around him those who take up such practice as their profession. Fabrizio, a well-ordered kingdom ought so much the more avoid such artifices. For these only are the things in which corrupt the king and all ministries and the tyranny, and do not on the other side tell me of some present kingdom, for I will not admit them to be all well-ordered kingdoms. For kingdoms that are well-ordered do not give absolutely power to rule their kings, except in the armies. For only there is a quick decision necessary, and therefore he who rules must have this unique power. All right, we come back to the United States Constitution again, all right? There's a reason why the president's commander-in-chief of the fucking military. All right. And this is it right here, because you need one individual to make that fucking quick decision with the military when needed. You know, like say you get bombed, you get attacked, whatever. You can't be waiting for a bunch of old dudes to sit around and fucking have a vote. You need to motherfucking have a guy willing to strike that fucking moment. You know what I'm saying? And that's why we have, again, our fucking forefathers read this shit. You know what I mean? And this is why you should read it. Okay. And do not on the other side tell me, in other matters, he cannot do anything without counsel. Therefore, he cannot do anything. And those who counsel him have to fear those whom he may have near them, who in times of peace desire war, because they are unable to live without it. But I want to dwell a little longer on this subject and look for a kingdom totally good, but similar to those that exist today, where those who take up the profession of war for themselves still ought to be feared by the king, for the sinews of armies, without any doubt, are the infantry, so that if a king does not organize himself in such a way that his infantry in time of peace are content to return to their homes and live to the practice of their own profession, it must happen of necessity that he will be ruined. For there is not to be found a more dangerous infantry than what is composed of those who make the waging of war their profession. For you are forced to make war always and pay them always, or to risk the danger that they take away the kingdom from you. You know, and I think that's pretty self-explanatory, you know what I mean? But I'll break it down for those of you without the IQ to fucking hold this. Real simple. If you keep individuals around you whose only fucking way of doing things is violence and war, they will continually want violence and fucking war, because, you know, that's how they make a fucking living. And if you don't give them that shit, they'll fucking employ that violence and fucking war to take away what the fuck it is you have. They'll fucking attack their own fucking kingdom, attack their own neighborhood. And I mean, sit here, you know, and fucking, how do you put this? Extort the country, right? Say, hey, look, you know, either you give us this fucking money or we'll fucking ransack your shit. That's kind of the situation. You know what I'm saying? So you don't want them to constantly have that fucking ability to do so. So that's why you don't want to have a constant military. You know what I mean? Because people will constantly be looking for more money. And this is why Dwight D. Eisenhower said people are the military industrial complex. You know what I'm saying? We're going to read a little more, and then we're going to shut this down because I got to go in here and fucking sign this paperwork. All right. All right. To make war is not always possible. One cannot always pay, and hence the danger is running and losing the state. My Romans, as I have said, as long as they were wise and good, never permitted their citizens should take up this practice as their profession, notwithstanding that they were able to raise them at all times, but did not change. They changed the men and kept turning men over in their legions, so that every 15 years they always completely remanned them. And thus they desire men in the flower of their age, which is from 18 to 35 years old, during which time their legs, hands, and their eyes work together, nor do they expect that strength should decrease in them, or that malice should grow in them as they did in corrupt times. 18 to 35. Ain't that weird how fucking our military set up the same way right now? I wonder who would have fucking known that. Who would they have read this right here? Y'all need to read this fucking book. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna read it to you. You know what I mean? But if you ain't started reading this fucking book on your own yet, you know what I'm saying? Like fucking sitting there listening to my breakdown on this shit, it's ridiculous how fucking much of what the fuck is in this book is today's real shit. You know what I'm saying? All right. But at the moment, we're going to shut this down, man. Yo, look, Tomorrow, 10 p.m., we're going to have Necro Butcher on the Australian Nazi. Y'all motherfucking enjoy yourselves. And yo, Cam, I told you, I'm going to keep doing this. You know what I mean? I'm going to keep getting it the fuck done. You know what I mean? And I'm going to fucking break this whole shit the fuck down, and y'all are going to love me for it. It's going to be what it is. You know what I mean? I know a lot of y'all ain't going to watch this shit, but, you know, it's what it is. Anyway, I'm going to holler at y'all later. Y'all enjoy your motherfucking nights. You know what I'm saying? Peace be like one, man. See you later.